Morning, everyone. Happy
Good
Wednesday.
morning. Hello.
All right. Oh, good, good. Oh, you're so great with the links and things. Good morning, friends. Happy to be here with you. My name is Daniela. I'm your fill in host while Laura is on birthday week in Colorado with Erin and some other
Mm,
friends having an amazing, I think the retreat starts tomorrow. And so I'm just hosting get-togethers every morning from about 10 to 10:45 while she's away. So happy to be here with you. Grab some water, grab some tea, and I'm so delighted to be here with Michael. Michael is one of the co-founders of New Earth Ascending, and we're just here to chat about a whole bunch of things, passion and purpose being one
mm,
of the
mm,
topics of mine. So, good morning, Michael. Why don't you tell us a little bit
mm,
about what's in your mind and heart this
mm.
morning? And some friends have met you previously, and there may be some friends joining us this morning for whom this is their first time meeting you.
Yeah. Well, I guess as I was laying in bed, because it was early in the morning here where I am on the west coast of the US, and I'm like having I like to have my gentle mornings when I wake up. Like when I wake up, I take some time. There's some practices that I even start doing before I get moving out of bed. So I'm doing my countdown. I start usually at like 100 and count my way down to one. And I'm like getting myself into this nice little bubble of my morning, feeling into how I want this day to go and how I want this conversation to go. And it was and it was inspiring me to talk about living life with a higher purpose,
Mm.
feeling a sense of personal and impersonal mission in your life, and how that can really be a way to illuminate and inspire your life, even from the very first moments that you're waking up, how you can tune your own instrument to align and be
Mm.
inspired and excited to start your day. I remember there were many years of my life where it was hard to get out of bed and face the day, and now I have these little tricks that I can get me primed up, so happy
Well,
to be
if
here.
you don't mind, let's start there. That's a really powerful entry point. And some
Mhm,
of the questions that come to mind are in your process and in your life experience.
mhm.
What's that? How do you walk the balance of being conscious and perhaps seeing and feeling using all your senses, intending, declaring how I want my day to go,
Mhm,
while simultaneously being present,
mm,
living with an open hand,
mhm.
and allowing what wants to happen?
Yes.
So how do you work with the both and of that?
Yeah. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying, like, how do I be a creator in my life and create be a actualized creator or something versus and
Great.
also working with everything that's coming in, everything that happens, life happens, all those kinds of
Yes,
things.
and perhaps if can we get too attached to I want
Mm,
it this way, and perhaps life
mm,
has something much more rich for you, so that allowing and taking in like the what wants
mm.
to happen in the bigger way for you.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. What a great question. You know, I look at life in some ways as like a three-way relationship. There's me and the person or thing that I'm engaging with. And then there's that mystery, the third thing that also has its involvement. So I can only show up, I can maybe only contribute 33% of the equation, which takes a lot of pressure off when it comes to creating in life. I can only do my 33%. It's the world and the greater consciousness that also needs to contribute what it wants. So there is a level of non-attachment that's really important for manifesting anything. And part of that reason is it could sound at first like non attachment is protecting yourself from being disappointed. And while that could possibly be true, it's also because those other two thirds have magic and surprise to offer into it in terms of where. where does the universe want to take it? Where does the higher evolution want to take this, and evolve it so it can always be better? So instead of it just being a way of protecting, it's also like, here's the best I could envision. Here's the best I could come up with. And also, I'm so open for it to being even better than I can imagine. And I think that positive mindset and that positive collaborative engagement with creation um, allows things to come into a higher place. So I do have that in my default belief system that the universe is conspiring in my favor. So that for me is what is how I can stay unattached to what's coming as best as possible. Sometimes I can be attached.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so there you are. You've done the counting. Walk us through like what you're present to,
Mm,
and how you really begin your day internally in
mhm,
your inner space.
totally.
Consciously.
Yeah, so for myself, you know this feeling when you're snuggling up and it's warm, under the blankets, and there's this feeling of being held and being supported and cared for? That for me is a really important feeling to have in the background of my entire day. So I call it milking it. I'm sitting there and I'm milking it. All those last few moments that I have with myself and quiet. So while there's that feeling of being held and being, nurtured, there's also breathing or some practices, counting, a prayer, visualizing, to develop a state of inner silence so that my day is starting from a place of silence and spacious and being held, and then everything can kind of fall in. So before I get out of bed, I try to fill my cup entirely, and then everything else is a lot easier after that. So I don't
Mm.
know if you're like me. I have a generally a really long period of time when I wake up to get actually into my body. My dreams are disorienting. I'm just kind of like, whoa. And my body can be quite heavy. So for me, charging up and getting that really good feeling helps to. Otherwise, I can be quite a bear in the morning if I don't do those.
Well, I have half
Yeah.
the week when my eldest isn't here in the morning. So my morning routine on Tuesday to Friday, Saturday is very different. So I have these other few days that I get to design exactly at the pace that I want. However, even on those lovely mornings where my son is here, once I bring him to school, then I have usually from 9 to 11:30. I don't see any clients. Like my work day will typically be between 11 and maybe 11, right?
Yeah.
With naps and pauses and transition
Yeah.
time in that window. Nap is so key.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really that 9 to 11 I cherish
Hmm.
that spaciousness, talking, engaging as little as possible.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really important for people to have that time. I don't know how long each individual can carve it out in their day, but
mm,
we spend the entire day engaging with the outer world and very little time really getting to cultivate relationship with our innermost self. And that's what all of those relationships are based off of. So I think it's really important, whether it's in the middle of the day, beginning of the day, or the ending of the day, just to check in with yourself and see how you feel about your life as it's unfolding.
and for exactly, and for people that find themselves, my heart immediately goes to mothers with
Yeah.
young children at home.
Yeah.
um what do you find is a really effective way to nourish oneself, right? To actually cultivate some good energy
Hmm.
when the it's you need to do it swiftly.
The demands of life. Yeah. Well, I have cultivated a couple, like, let's say these practices or, yeah, practices could be done either quietly when one's in solitude or when one's out in the world engaged in doing things. And those are the ones that I tend to actually like better.
Mm,
Long, deep seated meditations or spending a lot, a couple hours by myself doesn't happen as much as I would like it to do, as much as I could definitely benefit from it.
mm,
So there's little tricks that I have woven throughout the day that will trigger me into internalizing my focus
Mhm.
and kind of recharging my battery. So that thing that I do with myself in the bed in the morning is kind of like the baseline, and then throughout the day, there's different things that I'll do to trigger myself back into that baseline. A
Mm.
new one that I've been doing is, coming from the Silva method. They call these Zap meditations. They're quick meditative states that you induce yourself into throughout the day. One of them is called the stoplight method. So as the
Mhm.
light's turning red, there's an inner state that you can go into, bring up your vision of what you're creating, have an affirmation of some kind, and like really charge yourself up. Once the light turns green, come back out and drive. And so that's been a really great way to just restart it. And everyone can, do that at a stoplight and take those few moments.
Brilliant. I love those. It's like microdosing on good stuff, like
Yeah.
the microdose on meditations
Yeah.
and turning inward and cultivating, realigning yourself with your true self.
Yeah.
Um, and over the years, like to me, that's perpetual repetition
Yeah.
of practices, and it penetrates you. It's like if you
Yeah.
put food coloring, a few drops
I
of
was gonna
blue,
use a color like the analogy like this.
big vase of water the size of Texas. It will eventually, it's like, holy moly, it's all blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so there's the value of that perpetual repetition, and it can be quick. Um,
I want to speak to some people that might be resistant to going inward. And I totally understand that, especially if the pain body is really charged up. If there's a lot that's like difficult to feel, if there's a lot that needs to be sorted and picked through and all that, I can totally understand. It's better just to, do other things, be on the phone. I think the phone is the biggest one for us today in modern times, but there's plenty of ways to distract ourselves.
mm,
So even just that little recognition of like, I feel you, I know that there's a lot going on there, and just taking a few moments just to breathe and connect and allow any emotion that might want to come up to be felt and released. And you'll notice it takes the pressure off for the rest of the day. Kind of
mm,
like just takes the pressure out so that things are a little bit more comfortable in your skin. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with, there's just so much that I need to feel and look at. Um, Little bits at a time will help.
I love that. Um, okay, so I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about the
And I'm gonna
self
plug
this
in, keep talking.
sure thing. Um, that we share with friends a little bit about the self-realization pathway in your
Yes.
in your platform, because it is, through my lens, it is one of the most incredible opportunities for spiritual seekers, for those new to the journey of, they're consciously like, okay, I know I want to attend to
Yeah.
myself. I really want to take on my healing. And it's such a it can seem really daunting. Like,
Yeah.
where do I begin? Do I
Yeah.
start with therapy? Do I start with movement?
Mhm.
And what is so incredible about your program is how comprehensive it is.
Mm.
So, if maybe you could tell us a little bit about the opportunity that participants have going through that program. And in my opinion, you also really are very sensitive and make it very affordable, uh,
Mhm.
because you can sign up for it monthly.
Yeah.
And, and it's tremendously supporting.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing about that. Well, there's a few things that I've been hearing from people. At New Earth Ascending, which our organization it was what our organization's called, we were like, how do we start sorting people into different directions that's really gonna best suit the complexity of what's happening in awakening humanity right now, which how do we kind of send people over there or go over here, or this is where you're gonna be best served. So we're calling, what did you call it? The self-realization pathway. It's kind of up in the air right now. It might be called the luminous life path. We've played with that term before, so it's up in the air. But what I've noticed about folks is that there's a couple. some people are newly awakened. They're newly discovering and unpacking and detox, maybe don't even know that they need to clean their body and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the people that have been on the path for a very long time that maybe got lost track of the foundations, got too into maybe philosophy to the point that it's not embodied, or got so into different conversations and world events that, they just haven't taken care of the physical body as much. So I think there's a focus in this path that she's describing. I'll call it luminous life for now. Um, of really addressing each and every layer of our being to really come into holistic development. So, not just devotional, spiritual, or not just mental meditation, things like that, but really looking even at at the physical body and how um, our spiritual practices can assist that in developing and cleaning and healing, as well as the mind, and as well as opening to those higher spiritual or intuitive connections as well. There's a lot of people developing what we can call extrasensory perception. I call it inner sensory perception, um, and don't know what to do with it. Or people that have hit a plateau, like they've developed so far, it was a bliss wave for a bit, and now it's just kind of hanging out here, or the same patterns and problems are showing up again and again. So this particular group coaching course is a do at your own pace. So there's many different lifestyle
Mhm.
structures that people are working with, different levels of experience with these type of topics, different needs, different struggles, so people can explore the material at their own pace, get support from the 2 monthly meetups, group coaching meetups, and engage with the community that is also pursuing awakening, pursuing healing, pursuing deeper, more authentic connections and relationships in their life, so that we can all practice all this newness that's coming up, and also lean into one another as we're inherently going through challenges, as we're looking at past trauma, conditioning from our cultures and our families that we're ready to move beyond. So there's a lot that's happening in the process of awakening, and it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So we made this particular program to meet people where they are, and to help them achieve their higher purpose and mission in life, so they can feel that their gifts and talents are being used,
Mm.
so they can feel like they're contributing to their family, to their society around them, and to the world at a whole. So that's a little bit about it.
And how would friends explore further if they wanted to see if this is a next
For
supportive
them,
step for them? Yeah.
that's a really great question. So, if you would go to newearthascending.org, which is the website for the organization, and there's tons of information on there on all kinds of things. Our books, I don't have my books around me, but there's a lot of resources that are there on the website, and you can learn about the Multiversity. So, the Multiversity is our online school that is contains this one path, and then the evolutionary facilitator path, which is people that want to learn quantum healing, that want to advance their quantum healing practice. I know a lot of people want to adapt their practice in new and innovative ways. And we have some exciting announcements coming out that I can't really say all the way yet, because they need to be developed a little bit more. But there's about to be some really exciting things happening. With the multiversity and also source energy. So you could also go to source period energy, which is our mighty network, which Astara has that incredible mighty network, with so many lovely people there. And um, so there's many, many things in development, but I would say check out there. My adorable husband, Ron Amit, is doing discovery calls. He's super excited and jazzed up about those, about meeting individuals, hearing what's going on in their life, what their challenges are, what they're wanting to create, and see how our different services and offerings can enhance the path and really launch you forward
Mm.
into what you're wanting to create and bring into this world. So I would say check out the discovery call.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, I love it because the two of you listen so deeply and so clearly, and make such sound recommendations for next steps. It's
Mm.
that's an incredible offering. So friends, if you're watching this live or on replay and you just don't know what that next step is, Ron and Michael are such incredible safe and trustworthy guides, and they're not afraid, nor do they need anyone's business enough that you would say, "Oh no, we can do that." Right? If you think there's something better for someone or a better fit or match elsewhere, you'll say that.
We absolutely say, and we're also mm, we're really good. We've worked with so many hundreds of people over these years and people at different stages of development. And so we're really pretty quick to see exactly where people are and what could be best suited for them. And that could also be referring people to other resources and other things that would be best suited for them. Um, yeah, it's just most important that the people that we meet leave each meeting feeling like they've reached another level of clarity about what to do next. So many people have this, I don't know what to do. I don't know which direction. I've tried everything. And we're super excited about meeting people in those places and saying, well, try this, see if this will work for you.
And it never ceases to amaze me how many gems occur and arise just in a discovery call.
Mm,
Um, it can give you such perspective and clarity, and the sweetness of being seen and heard is so. Don't underestimate, friends, the potency of taking Ron and Michael up on. Let's just have a conversation. it's
yeah.
that-
And it's a free chat too, and, you know, the way that we run the way that we run most interactions at New Earth Ascending is a ceremonial approach in the sense that there's a short centering practice to start the conversation, to open the inner space, and there's something to close. So within the container of a ceremony, that's where that three-way relationship of facilitator, person receiving, and that great mystery get to create something. So often people have really big transformation just in the conversation. Things come up, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that in a long time. Um, so come snag one. Come-
All right. Well, you did mention the word purpose. So
Mm,
let's talk about purpose, life purpose.
mhm,
it can sometimes, I think, for people feel like almost a
mhm.
stressful topic. Like, I don't know my purpose. I don't know, like,
Yeah,
tension around that. So let's unpack, what
great.
does it really mean to connect with your purpose, and where does your purpose exist, and
Yeah,
how do we settle into that such that we can feel both empowered and relaxed in that?
absolutely. So what I this is it, with the illuminated quantum healing sessions and the recalibration sessions, which we facilitate now, the shorter sessions. One of the most common questions is, what is my purpose? Am I living it? How far am I on the right path? Am I doing everything right? And even in that question, one can feel there's a level of self-doubt, and also maybe a lower sense of personal value. So for me, living your purpose means that you're aware of your inherent value, you're aware of your unique gifts and talents and interests, and you're actively engaging in those unique gifts, talents, and interests throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month. So for me, living your purpose isn't necessarily a externalized specific thing, but it's more of a way of living in that I know that I'm a creator of my reality. I know that I can manifest everything that I want and that I deserve it. Um, Not only for myself, this is where manifestation really upticks, is when it's dedicated towards others, when it's beyond how does, living in a way that's serving beyond your own personal self. So I would say the things that get in the way the most is that sense of personal value and and being disconnected um, or unfamiliar with those natural gifts and talents that you already innately have. And so we have the illuminated quantum healing, these programs that we're talking about, and there's of course literature. We have books and things like that to help people cultivate an inner state of living purposefully, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's in your career and your activities, your family, things like this. Um, Otherwise, life can be, if one isn't living purposefully and intently in their life and from the heart, life can feel like being tossed around in the wind, like a leaf that just blows around, not really sure, kind of floating around. So once you're living in that purpose, you're here, you're present, you're engaged, um, and open at the same time. It has this flexibility to it.
What if someone is in a place of, okay, I have been tossed around. That's been my
Hmm.
experience, the lens through which I'm experiencing life. And I don't know what my unique talents and gifts are. I don't even
Hmm.
know where to begin with that. I know I want
Totally.
to feel fulfilled. I'm not fulfilled. And I also, if you ask me to list my unique talents and gifts,
Yeah, totally. What a great place to be, in a place of, yeah, to just to have nothing to really grab onto specifically in that inquiry. Well, we have the hypnosis sessions that we work are great for that, because then somebody can, through their own inner space, make a deep connection with their innermost self and receive information, images, feelings, memories can come up, um, visions of the future, and these can inform a person. Um, Another way, if I wanted to get more practical about it, that wasn't through a hypnosis session, the playfulness of the inner child is something that is so missed in our culture and our society. Immediately, we children are put into situations where they have to grow up quickly, they have to adapt quickly to the conditioning and to the issues of their environment and their relationships. And especially with the recalibration sessions, there's a focus of working with the inner child to see what's going on there, because the inner child is responsible for spontaneity, creativity, emotion, playfulness. And I find that most people, um, myself included in this, don't get to spend enough time with my inner child, or there might be things that happened in the past that haven't yet been processed or even come into awareness to be processed. Emotional density, old trauma, conditioning, family belief systems, religious belief systems. There's so many different levels and layers of what inhibits our ability to be spontaneous and playful and connected. Um, and and so I think another part of that living purposefully is seeing what that little kid inside wants to do today and how it wants to live and what it needs to say and share and um, do to feel illuminated, golden, the golden playful child versus the one that's being told to shut up and sit down in the back seat or something like that. Yeah. So,
I'm wondering if this may be useful for someone
hmm.
listening. Jordan, thank you. And Jordan's sharing this is exactly where I am. I don't have a clue what my positive qualities are.
Hmm.
Even if we don't know what we actually want to go do today and are
Hmm.
willing to go do, could we imagine just self guide ourselves in like, okay, I've got a magic wand. If I have no other commitments or obligations or responsibilities or agreements or anything today,
Hmm. Hmm.
what are a few ways I could imagine just having fun, right? I have no children, no nothing, like nothing else. I get to do anything I want. How would I play? And that could be a starting point just to connect you with,
Hmm.
because the mind can so quickly like thumbs down
Yeah,
what we want to do, because you're like, oh no, you can't do that. You're too busy. You've got to do these other things, or that's not practical, or how are you going to earn money doing that?
totally.
So I love the magic wand question that just sets aside the mind that comes in to like poop on that rainbow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
another thing that can sometimes be useful for Jordan or anyone listening, sometimes we are the last ones to remember our unique talents and gifts. However, people in our life that really love and cherish us can see them clear as day.
Mm.
And so you may, if you're feeling courageous and vulnerable in your close, caring, and cherishing relationships, ask others, you know,
Mm. Mhm.
What do you see as my unique talents and gifts? And some of my students have this as an exercise, and they email 5 people, and because that gives the recipient some time to be with
Mhm.
it, and
Mhm.
what comes back, people are so honored to reflect back to you. Oh my gosh, these are like the wonderful, the
The
oh,
sweetest messages.
oh my god, they're like the most gorgeous love letters, that are so authentic and truthful. So, I invite you or anyone listening to, it takes something to be like, "Okay," and you can tell them, "I was given a homework assignment today. Like, what can you help me fulfill on my homework assignment?"
Mm.
Because,
Mhm.
and I promise you, people are so honored to be asked, and they take time to be really thorough with the goodness and beauty that you are in such unique ways.
I'm seeing this comment over here, and I want to speak to something that Jordan was saying. I also want to invite anyone that's listening, if you have any questions for us to discuss, you're welcome to put those in the chat so Danielle and I can get to them. And this says, I've been clean from heroin for almost 3 years now, but I lived such a low quality life for so long. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And this one statement has a few different points that I could speak to about that. But I also was in active addiction for a number of years in a way that I was living a life that was wildly out of control and really unstable. And my own personal feelings about myself were pretty, you know, I was a very traumatized person at, for a long time. And for example, the little bed practice that I described today, it's evolved over the years, but at first it was just a prayer. It was me praying to God, praying to Christ, praying to guides, teachers, and whoever was of the highest that could help me. And to really take that devotion into my heart and to breathe with it and let that be my anchor that I saturated myself with in the mornings to get myself juiced up for the day, to bring that redemptive love into myself and give it to myself, was the most powerful um, practice that I think really saved my life. Um, and it helped me start to unpack all the not self belief systems and to discover, unfold, come into what is my innermost self that is pure. You know, I was reading at that time when I was starting to recover about from the Vedic lineages, because I was coming from Christian lineages, about the, you know, and the Christian and the way that it was taught in this in the churches that I went to is, you know, there was an impurity that was, you know, each person had. Where in the Vedic literature I was reading about that there is something that is unbound, unstained, unbroken, you know, perfect, whole. And so I would spend some time investigating that within myself and noticing all the thoughts that would come up of, oh, I'm a good boy, I'm a bad boy, even those beliefs that I would come up with that were praised, where the ego gets inflated, the, you know, where the personal identity gets inflated and be like, oh, that's not true either. Because sometimes it's like I feel so bad about myself, and then somebody gives a compliment, and I'm like, oh, you know, but that's not stable, because a person could be critical the next second, and that comment blows away like dust. So for me, it was a practice of having some faith, some belief, some openness to the idea that I actually am beyond anything I could ever imagine, and that my value never changes. My value is monumentous as well as every other person's, and it was equal to every person. So these ideas starting to reframe the thoughts of my mind while also rebuilding my own vibrational charge through love, redemptive love,
Oh,
was what really steered the ship in a new direction. So if you're somebody that's struggling with personal value, your vibe's low, you've done things maybe that, you know, you really feel guilty or ashamed of, all of that can fall away. And and you're deserving of that, and it's possible for you.
Michael, when you are going through this part of your spiritual healing journey,
Mhm.
what was the role of traveling with others and community?
Hmm. Well, we live in a wheel of karma where things are constantly organizing based off of past actions and bringing certain situations together. So I would say at certain times I would be brought together into relationships with other people on the path, or maybe not consciously on the path, but there would be a some conditions set into motion to catalyze introspection, and that's not always comfortable. That's often through the triggering of what was unconscious before that comes up with reactive emotions and things like that. So I would say life, the river of life carried me to different spots where I would meet people of at a certain place where I was at a certain place and we would be in spiritual practice together. My yoga community was big, but prior to that, it was the Christian community and the church that I was growing up in and a few other places. And now that's shifted even more. Now I'm online. Who would have known that spiritual community 20 years ago? I would never have imagined that now it's here. Now the way that I engage with spiritual community, with people that are on the path, with myself, it's in a different place. So I think restate the question. I don't know if I'm speaking to it or not.
No, no, I think you are beautifully, and um, we are on a solo journey, and yet being supported, right? When we first come into our sobriety, we start emerging from the slumber.
Yeah.
What was the role of community and
Hmm.
like-minded seekers that were also uplifting and caring?
Totally. And yeah, so like I said, it's changed depending on what's been what needed to work on. But let's say another spiritual community for me was the 12 step programs, NA and AA, and coming into a space where I was allowing myself to destigmatize
Mm,
myself and um, and normalize the situation, and not like to bypass it, but to say, "Oh, it's okay, it's understandable, this happens to so many people, we're all in the same boat, we're all messed." The NA rooms can be really kind of sarcastic and kind of gritty with their humor, but it was great to come into a space of it was okay that were where we were in our process. um, so that was really sweet, and I think now my at this point where it is now, because I'm not needing to lean into others so much. I now others can lean into me, and so um, it's changed to the point that now I spend a lot more time recharging, a lot more time in solitude and contemplation, and um, so yeah, it's just really shifted over the years. Before it was desperate. I was just looking for help, anything that could point me in the right direction or give me the key to unlock me from my own prison. Now it's a bit different.
mm. Thank you. Thank you for, I mean, you are an incredibly safe guide for so many now. So thank you for
Mm.
the curriculum that you've lived that's
Mhm.
brought to the place where you can help guide and usher others through their own squeezes.
Yeah. What I will also say is, it's the joy of finding spiritual community, and I also want to speak to the end of those relationships,
Mm,
to the end of that segment of time of learning, because each of these segments, it's like a time space segment that you move into with certain people and conditions. When it has served its purpose karmically for your evolution, for their evolution, those relationships will start to dissolve. Life
mm,
will start to take you in a new direction. And I think there was a lot of pain for me at different times because of the longing, the letting go. And that probably has stuff to do with my inner child and early childhood and all that stuff. But also honoring the dissolution of those relationships.
mm,
And it doesn't have to mean anything real big. It's just time to let the river carry you to the next pod to play
mm.
with.
Oh, how beautifully said. We have a question in the comments, and thank you for it. Is to you, is there a daily practice you do no matter how you're feeling?
Hmm. It's interesting because I feel that I'm on a path where I did do pretty intensive times of lots and lots and lots of physical practice every day. Now it's mostly just for maintaining little bits. So they're not huge practices that I'm doing. They're more principles that I'm observing throughout the day to align myself, such as having an unshakable relationship with my innermost self. That's constant. That's all day. That's happening while I'm talking with someone, while I'm, at a farm right now. So while I'm watering the plants or something, there is a embodied conscious awareness that happens almost incessantly. Um, so I would say there's that. There's taking the time to take time. So when I'm noticing things are getting charged or a little bit like getting going for a walk, getting myself out of the field of the conflict or the turbulence and go for a walk. So I have this now at this point over all of these years cultivated a very deep relationship with my innermost self. And that's the number one relationship in my life. And uh, I think that all of the other practices that are out there helped me to get to that spot. So I
Mm,
think eventually the scaffolding gets taken away. The scaffolding, the spiritual practices, serve to get to a certain point, and then eventually they're just for maintenance. And that's actually an important part of the path of the inner mysteries is that there is an important awareness of coming to the realization that no one practice your enlightenment, your awakening is not dependent on any practice or observation or set of rituals. There is at the earlier stages, especially when people are moving out of religion, that they've loved so much and got so used to practicing, that some of those ideologies, some of those practices, we kind of cling to. It's another clinging. So
mm,
eventually, even that has to be dissolved to really come into the unshakable awareness that all that you need is here,
mm,
that you are the source of awakening, not the
mm,
practice.
mm. And in your practice now currently, do you enjoy working with, for lack of a better way of describing, like external guidance, or is your practice
Hmm.
all internal, right? Like I always like the idea of, is my practice perfect, whole, and complete, whatever that is,
Hmm.
if I were sitting in a room with nothing.
Hmm. 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 So ask the question one more way so I can get into it.
Um, do you is most of your practice currently internal,
Hmm.
or do you use music, guided meditation,
Hmm.
or what role have more external support been,
Hmm.
and how has that evolved?
It really shifts and changes, and it depends on the style of practice that I might do. Um, so, for example, if I go to the YMCA and I'm at the gym, it's going to look different than if I'm sitting in my room by myself. And so my spiritual practice happens all day, all day, all night, every moment of my life. It's not. I don't have a practice time and then
Mhm,
nece- although sometimes I get the joy and the delight and the willpower to sit with myself for an hour and do a big asana practice or breath work and certainly having nice music, creating a nice environment.
mhm,
See, um, there's the what are they called? I think they're 15 limbs of Raja Yoga from Adi Shankara. He has this like 15 principles that are lived throughout the day. So, um, that, for example, auspicious place, instead of feeling like I need to go to some place to discover my inner self or discover God, which is sometimes helpful to go to a temple or to go to a quiet place or a church or a mountain or something, is that every place that I walk, I am.
mm,
Ev- or that is capital T. Time. Oh, it's better to meditate at 4 in the morning and get up. That's also a rigidity of practice, a mindset when all of time is that infinite being that I am. Every moment that infinite being shines forth. So it starts to become it's very, very internalized. Also, as I've moved through, if you're familiar, if people are familiar with the sheaths, physical body, pranic, life force body, starting to move into emotions. So each of these sheaths, as a person is awakening, you start to move your center of awareness deeper and deeper and deeper into those layers. And you'll spend a period of time and maybe even have your spiritual community be focused around that one particular sheath for a bit. And then as you get to the point that that's been completely repaired and upgraded, revitalized, illuminated, then you'll move into a deeper layer. So I'm at a point now that I'm working on really psychic development in terms of remote viewing, non local consciousness, visionary states. So most of my practice is happening on this mental screen in my internal experience all throughout the day. But then I'll have some periods where I'm sitting to kind of flex the psychic muscles a little bit, work them a little bit, try different things. Um, so it's not so much about the physical practice anymore, although I definitely need to move a lot more. I could benefit from getting the joints flowing a bit more.
Michael, how would you suggest people if they're curious to explore? Okay, I'm becoming much more conscious and aware of the
Yeah.
difference between my thoughts in my mental body and emotions.
Mm,
Um, what would be a a way that you could simply speak to how to attend to your emotions without quickly like turning away from it or bypassing
totally,
it? How do you work with your emotional layer in real time such that it's not sinking into it nor discarding it as though
totally,
it's a problem
totally.
or a bother?
Yeah. Well, and this is another reason why I really recommend the awakened, what are we calling it now? Luminous life path or whatever, because I
Yep.
have the
Yep.
just whatever that personal
And
development path is called.
there are really two tracks
Yeah.
in Source Energy Mighty Network through
Yeah.
Rock Nichols programs. There's like the Luminous Life Path is sort of like the program
Personal.
that's for you. It's the
Yeah.
wow, I really want to step into an organized system
Yeah, totally.
that allows for my unique exploration, and yet
Totally.
the structure of the progression of the program is so sound and solid.
Mm,
Yeah, so emotions, like what's your view on them, and how do we work
totally.
with them skillfully?
So I You have all the tools. This body is a powerful your body is a powerful instrument for transformation, and there are some inherent built-in mechanisms that can help you develop emotional intelligence, emotional sophistication in how you navigate emotions, how you interpret and work with them, how you use them to create. And one of the best ways is to bring the hands onto the body, defocus the gaze a little bit, come into that inner space. So, starting to move into the alpha state, coming into your breath and inquiring, what is happening here? What is going on?
Hmm.
What is this about? And as you go into the self inquiry, vichara, as you start going into this process of what's occurring here, um, the mind will begin to generate images, memories, ideas, insights, knowings, and you can start to unpack it a little bit because the emotional suffering that's coming up has its seed in the mind, some belief, some perception, which may even have an even deeper root in the unconscious. Probably pretty likely that it does. All of this conditioning from other lifetimes, this lifetime, different things going on like that. So you want to go in there and feel into it with non-judgmental awareness, like what she was saying a moment ago of not kind of falling into it, not making it worse, not amplifying it, not adding to the story. That's where the mind is starting to generate, victim, perpetrator, da, 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 trying your best not to cling to those stories and develop an identity, but an awareness with it. And as you do that, Also not repressing it, moving it away, but being in presence and loving awareness with it will help to unpack so much. So, hands on the body, internalized focus, breath, and inquiry, question.
Mm,
And follow the journey. The mind will reveal. You are a master. Each of us are masters of creation. So
mm,
if you can just trust into that a little bit and allow yourself to pull the answers forward. Of course, everyone can achieve the highest peak at the mountaintop of human potential by themselves if they wanted. But it's easier to get up the mountain when you have a guide or a teacher. And that's why we have developed these two different paths. Why the IQH, we've worked so hard to develop as many systems as possible to support people, to help, it's the scaffolding to help you get there, help you discover, help you see some blind spots you weren't seeing before, reclaim that love and compassion for yourself, and then move forward from a place of newness and inspiration.
I couldn't imagine being on this healing spiritual journey without, along the way, very skillful, qualified guides. It's not I couldn't have discovered these just from books or from conversations, right? So for many of us, this is a starting point, and working with trustworthy, skillful guides along the journey is paramount. It really is. Um, again,
And
friends,
if
if
you
this is
don't have a teacher, if you're looking, if you don't even know, it also starts with that honest prayer first, that honest openness. What is the saying? When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
and then when
Uh,
the student is ready, the teacher disappears.
yes, exactly. There's that disillusion.
Oh, yeah.
And there was something else I wanted to say about that. And the teacher is only even called a teacher when the student refers to them as that,
Mm,
when they can really recognize.
mm,
So, because Jordan said, I am master, he joked about it, because there's also, um, an identity that can start to be developed that can be limiting. Let me see how I want to go into this as well. Humility is really important. So, yes, we are all masters, but often sometimes that can turn into an intellectual identity. What you are as the master, capital M, the infinite consciousness, is beyond any feeling or story or identity or name that can be added or subtracted. You're beyond value. Value appears within you.
mm,
Um, so being aware, we've been discussing the spiritualized ego, the spiritualized identity that starts to develop when we start awakening. My husband and I have been talking about it, and a few other people. Because what tends to happen, we've talked about those layers and levels. When people start to go through authentic spiritual awakening and all this intuition, all this new energy comes in, it can inflate the ego and inflate one of those deeper layers, the intellect, and make it shine so brightly. And
mm,
people can get stuck in that space because it's so shiny and bright.
mm,
So
mhm,
there's this level of humility and allowing oneself to even transcend even that identity,
mhm,
um, that are really, really crucial, or you can get caught. You can get stuck and some things can happen there. And also, there was something about this student teacher thing. Yeah, there has to be. I was saying that the teacher is only the teacher when the student sees. There's that love. There's that, oh my goodness, thank you so much for helping me in this moment. I acknowledge your skills and mastery and gifts, and
mm,
I need to learn them. And that's the surrendering of the lower ego,
mm,
to the wisdom that this teacher embodies, that this, you know, um, whoever it might be that is currently, the teacher that's come onto your path. And sometimes it can be for different reasons.
mm. Beautifully said, Michael. We have two reflections about around grief and transitions. So we have a friend here
Hmm.
who's you can see Kale's message.
Ah, yay.
Kale's in the process of helping their oldest woofer crossover, and we have a friend, Kristen, who is saying, I'd like some help moving through significant grief.
Mm, mhm. So, well, coming into a healthy relationship with things that have left and things that are leaving and things that will leave. This is really important throughout the whole spiritual process to practice non-attachment, loving reverence, these principles. Like I was saying, there's principles sometimes, not so much a practice that needs to be done, but an observance of a principle that can and reflection over a principle that can really help through challenging times. I want to speak to the grief. Um, Again, the best thing that I know and the most rapid process that I know of is the illuminated quantum healing sessions that we have. Rapid transformation, major emotional release,
Mm.
um, wisdom and insight from the experience of grief and what it's really the gift that grief is bringing. I know that can sound really strange for some people that grief is a gift, and some people can intellectually understand that, but to actually do the work to discover the gift is really, really beneficial and um, enlivening once you get through it. Um, that I recommend. What's the question with Kale? I understand that someone's on their way of transitioning.
There isn't a question. I
Okay,
just see
just
it as
acknowledging that.
a broader sense of when we're in a position of there is someone in our life that we love and cherish, and they're in the process of
Of
transitioning.
exiting, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's important when somebody is transitioning is, especially when they're in those last moments, is to make sure that they feel peaceful, that they feel comfortable, that they're in that an environment has been created that they feel comfortable and good in, and that they're able to let go emotionally and mentally of some burdens that have been weighing them down. One, it's going to help them feel better as they're going through the process, but two, it helps them prepare for a better rebirth after, because a lot of the thoughts and emotions that are supercharged and that as one makes their way through that bardo, through that period, through that gate of transitioning out of the body, um, those can inform what's going to happen for the next incarnation. So if somebody has a really intense hatred for somebody, deep pain that they've had, that's going to come over in the next life and set up their conditions. So as best as you can, hold that loving space, that redemptive love space. Um, Allow the Holy Spirit to be there in that space with you, whatever language it is that you use. Um, to allow the unfolding and the letting go and the surrendering that's possible for that person. Of course, you don't want to convert anybody or make anybody do spiritual things that or religious things that they're not comfortable with. But also take some time to reflect on your own mortality. The fact that this person is dying, consider for a moment that you could still die before that person does,
Mm,
that somebody else could, that life conditions could change like that for you. And what would that mean about your life today?
mm,
How much for granted have you taken this life? Have you contemplated your end? Have you tied up loose ends? What's your relationship with death? Do you have this is a very powerful portal for not only the person that's making their way out, but everybody that's affected around it. Um, so let it awaken true life within you to watch another move towards physical death.
mm,
That would be my suggestion. Let it completely rattle you and help you come into a deeper place of stability within yourself as a not just immortal, eternal being.
mm. It's a profound daily contemplation that I find for myself is probably been one of the most impactful catalysts for a shift in how I treat myself, others, and the world. I have a necklace that says memento mori and a few things jingle on it so
It
that when I move,
reminds you.
it's always a little jingle to remind me of any moment. Nothing I have is assured or promised or anyone or myself. that it's that sound just as a constant. It's always
Mhm.
high, and it isn't it doesn't occur as stressful or panic inducing. It's a it shifts me into and what matters right now and what matters right now and what matters.
Mhm. Mhm. And that can shift and change. I love that. I can't wait to I've been looking into memento mori, like, jewelry and different things. I'm like, "Oh, well, how can I" there's, like, rings and stuff, so I was inspired by your pendant.
It's the jingle that does it for me. It's the sound, it's the little bell in the background. Just
Hmm. Mhm. And what another I'm not this body, I am not this life. I've lived before, I'll live again. I never stop living. Like, there's deep, deep truths that death brings, deep introspections that the contemplation of one's mortality. I was looking into the memento mori um, philosophy, also looking into, I think it's Manasarati. The Buddhist culture has a rich philosophy around death and dying. Um, there are different traditions out there and different resources, but um, as you don't have to prepare for death at the end of your well, no one knows when the end of life is going to be, but you don't have to wait for conditions to um, turn south for you to start internally preparing yourself to meet your physical life's finality, and the amount of healing that you can do for yourself and the amount of service that you can extend to humanity once you've been liberated from the fear of death and realize the truth of your, and again, I want to point this out, not just immortality, eternality, that time and space appear within you, um, not endless time in you. You're the container in which all of that arises. As you come into those higher non-dual perceptions, then it's just a scene change.
Mm,
It's not as big, and it's not, you know, scaring you from behind you, coming up to surprise you. You can
mm,
actually, because a lot of suffering comes from the surprise of death. You can communicate with death as you move through your life,
mm,
um, in a way that really invigorates. And but of course, if you're a person that's tends to be um, really strongly fear based, if you're just starting out on your spiritual path and things aren't stable yet and you've got a lot going on, I wouldn't necessarily start with death contemplation practices. I would build up some spiritual titictia, spiritual endurance, some fortitude
mhm,
first before going into a practice like that, because it is going to evoke some really deep emotions. So you want to have some practices like meditation, laying of hands,
mm.
devotional practices, just to recharge you, because it's going to bring up some emotional stuff.
Michael, there are so many styles of meditation.
Uh-huh.
How do you and Ron help your students to connect with whether it's a vastness meditation
Yeah,
versus a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
concentration focused, or how are you able to connect with your students and help them to find and feel into what might be what really
Totally.
makes them like the most wonderful sweater, and then sometimes all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's not my favorite sweater
It's
anymore.
not, yeah, totally. Well, we break meditation into two, the passive and active meditations. And even, yeah, so active meditation would be like embodiment practices where you're moving a bit, where like a qigong, like you have, I think on Sundays, do you have qigong? I think.
We
When
do.
do
We
you?
have it all over. And Tara Franklin now is teaching yoga lives, yoga, qigong, kundalini yoga, hatha, like a whole fusion,
Hmm.
twice a
Cool.
week, Stara. So
That sounds fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's wonderful.
So there's moving meditations, walking meditation, where there's some level of engagement and activity, that is contemplative, focusing. Um, and then there's passive ones, which are like the longer ones where eventually there's an absorption that happens. It's complete, deep, deep, deep brainwave state. And I think that, you know, having both, which is why a yoga class, you start with centering, do a bunch of movement, and then you come into stillness. You come into the passivity of it, of the practice. So having some physical movement is going to help, where that's training the body mind connection. Bicycling, it can be gym. It doesn't have to be spiritual for it to be a body mind centering practice,
Mhm.
an active meditation. So that's going to help, especially if someone's distracted or the mind is like running around a lot or emotionally charged or too tired even. So it can go both ways, either too stimulated or too tired. So doing the physical is going to help to regulate that, and then you can go into a seated practice much, much easier. Um, but I would say having diversity of those different types of practices throughout the day, because eventually it's not like I do my spiritual practice for between 6 and 7, and then life happens after that. You take it out. I think there's even, I forget who's writing about this. It's like, um, running to the Himalayas and meditating in a mountain, you've missed the mark, or plunging yourself completely into the desires and sensations of the world, you've missed the mark. It's that middle path.
Mhm.
It's living in the world as a meditative practice,
Mhm.
to be conscious and present and open in our awareness as much as possible. So it's going to be different for each person, and we tailor that depending on like the suggestions that I give. I can see and read a lot on people and can advise them where to go. So if you're
Mm.
having trouble meditating, or you feel that you're not able to get a really strong foundation in spiritual practices, I highly recommend it. And that's bringing up one more thing. There is only so much that's the inspiration and entertainment from YouTube videos and social media can give you for your spiritual path.
Mm.
It really, and I have a big part of my career and what I do to this world has to do with making videos for people to listen to, and hopefully it's entertaining. But there will be a point that you could only go further if you're cultivating your inner space. The last stages of the climb up the mountain involve training the higher faculties in the mind, and you have to actively train them through practice. Not watching YouTube, not watching a tarot reading or a channeling, or drinking 8 million cups of ayahuasca. The ayahuasca and these plant medicines will only take you to a certain threshold, but then at the end stages of it, it's really about what you do internally, consistently to develop the higher faculties. So I really get ahead of the curve, start building the spiritual fortitude now, and build those inner muscles, psychic muscles through practice. Find a teacher.
Mm. Thank you for that essential reminder. And I think that is also where the value of community, right? Getting together in person, going to meditation with others, right? So many of us have lifestyles that involve the use of a lot of technology,
Totally.
and to break out of that, sometimes it can feel a lot to just dive into your spiritual practices alone in your own space, your own home. So even, you can go to a church or a choir or whatever, just something outside of your home. Go where there are other kind-hearted people coming together in joy or silence or
Totally. Absolutely. There's
um,
those four paths of spirituality that the yoga system writes out. It's knowledge and self-inquiry, selfless service, meditation. What's the one I'm missing? Maybe you
we
can.
have karma, we have community, sangha, we
So,
have
yeah, that there's different ways and different. Um, somebody that doesn't really love meditation, it's really just like doesn't get them. Find your devotional practice that lights you up, that keeps the divine in your mind all the time. This love and adoration for the divine. If it's not, singing or devotional practices, maybe it's serving your community and getting into the state of mind that is just the lower egoic identity falls away because you're just in service. What you're doing is not for you, it's for somebody else. So you don't have to be as personally engaged in it. It's everything starts to build that charge of service. So find your way, and we can help um, help you find your
Yeah,
way.
Ron and Michael are amazing. They have a complimentary discovery call where you could just reach out and connect at newearthascending.org. You start there, they'll connect with you and just listen to where you're at and what it is you're seeking. And that is such a beautiful point. Like I have a son, he's type 1 Enneagram. He's very logical, he's very like and deeply sensitive. Ones are sensitive, but they act
Mm.
Spock like, and his spiritual path right now at 26 is on Wednesday evenings. He goes out and he knows in his community where those without homes live,
Mhm.
and there are restaurants he's connected with and gets hot meals packaged up for them and drives them around, at like 10
So
p.m.
sweet.
And but that's his spiritual path, and he doesn't know it. I don't call it that with him. But you just find what matters to you, friends. Find what matters to you. If that's your starting point of I want to connect more deeply with my heart or the sacred, and if you don't even know what that is, just ask yourself what matters to me.
Hmm.
um, okay, I'd love to share just a few announcements in a
Yeah.
star before we can complete our conversation.
Yeah.
I want to say hi to Kim's here right now. And Michael, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to connect or see any of Kim's Wednesday drop in with Kim. They're really beautiful violet flame meditations. Kim leads those every Wednesday for free. She live streams them in Astara. They're, I think, no, and then she posts the replay on YouTube, and they're also on Zoom. And Kim has one today from 12:15 to 12:45. Kim also has a nonprofit organization, Childhood Trauma Foundation. I think there's some great
Hmm.
collaborative potentials between your nonprofits. Yeah. So,
Hi, Kim.
um, Michael, how would you like to conclude our chat today? What's in your heart?
Hmm. Well, we've already been talking for a good bit of time, so maybe instead of a meditation or anything, I'll just sum it up with a message, which because we started this, does that feel good? Which is we started this conversation talking about a personal mission and purpose, living purposefully, aligning with the mission of your personal life, but also the greater mission of this planet. And I just want to let each and every person that will listen to this that you've come into this world of physicality with a great purpose and a essential part in the greater mission of liberating this planet and creating a new world, a new society where people live purposefully, where they live in connection, where devotion is a natural state, where redemptive love is felt, seen, and experienced everywhere. Our true nature is everywhere, seen and experienced. So, one, I just want you to know that there is not a single unimportant person on this planet,
Mm,
and redemptive love is available for all,
mm,
no exceptions. So, believe that that's possible for yourself and do what you need to do to stabilize it in your life, to work out all of the doubts that you might have about yourself and about the true nature of reality, and allow yourself to embody all that you truly are so that you can cause massive change across this planet with all of the others that are awakening to their true nature. And we can join together to build a world that benefits all
mm,
forever.
mm.
So,
And so it is. And
and so it is. Yeah.
oh, thank
Thank
you.
you so much for this. I always so love getting this time to connect with you all. It's really such an honor. We
So,
also have like a talk on Friday. I have because
yes.
I've been doing it every 2 weeks on Astara. This one is going to be on the planetary grid and the ley lines, sacred sites, things like this. So if you've been hearing about it, if you've been traveling, if you've been going to places, I've been
Mm,
to over. Ron and I were counting. We have no idea what the true number is. It's around 200 sites all around the world in these last many years. And so I'm going to be tuning into what the planet and what the cosmos want to work with me on this presentation to really inspire a delightful and playful connection with the planetary grid and the greater pathways of
Mhm.
energy moving through the universe. So if you're interested in that, please come on Astara. I think it's at 1 p.m. on
Yep,
Friday.
it's get your shift together with
Yeah.
Ron and Michael. And these talks are so great. The replays are in the free side of Astara. They're really incredible talks. Michael puts a lot of care into the sequence of the topics, and then there's Q&A opportunities, and I think an activation like the last talk I'm still only halfway through, was about relationships, and it was
Hmm,
incredible. So
hmm,
so come to the live stream live on Friday at 1, or
mhm,
check out the replay. They're really potent conversations.
hmm,
So thank you. Thank you so much. And friends, come to Kim's live stream at 12:15. It's half hour, and it's a beautiful and potent shamanic
hmm,
journey, really working with the violet flame and the sacred
hmm.
heart. It's really quite potent and healing. So Michael, thank you. We love you. Thank you, Ron. And we'll see Ron next week. And we wish you a really beautiful day.
Yeah, bless you all.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, friends. See you
Bye bye.
tomorrow. Bye bye.